Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Daniel Rosal here. I thought I'd make a video showing my little family of YouTube cameras, growing family. This is the stuff I've been using to make this YouTube channel to date for about the last year and a half, 2 years or so, and I thought I'd do a little show and tell on them. So, firstly, I'm recording this using my smartphone. I have a pretty basic Xiaomi Android. I don't do much shooting on it anymore. I always like the idea of having a separate camera, but it is useful to have that as a backup. And if you are going to be shooting stuff on your phone, your smartphone, buy a smartphone gimbal. The only reason I'm not using mine is that it's currently out of battery because I haven't used it for so long. But it'll make your footage a lot less shaky, like the footage I'm currently shooting. Especially if you're a heavy coffee drinker like me and you've always got a little bit of kind of natural tremor going on in your hands. So this is the first camera that I bought for the start of my video expedition. I bought this guy a few years ago. It's the Canon Vixia HF R800. This is a really affordable. It's currently like 400. I got this guy for like 200 bucks on Amazon because I wasn't sure that video was something I was really going to pursue as a hobby. So I wanted to, make a modest investment. It's a really, really good camera. Now, the reason I found this one specifically is it's the cheapest camcorder I could find from a decent brand that had a microphone input. So a microphone input will allow you to play around with a bunch of different microphones. Now, I honestly had no idea that this in itself was an unusual move. Nowadays, most people are using DSLR and mirrorless for video. I did not know that at the time. It just didn't occur to me to get anything other than a camcorder. And I've since become kind of a camcorder cheerleader. I think they're amazing tools. There definitely are some disadvantages versus DSLR and mirrorless. Namely, you're going to get a smaller sensor for your money. But on the flip side, they're built just for the process of recording video. So I've really, really loved this camera. It doesn't have a cold shoe, which is one of its disadvantages. So I bought a bunch of brackets or a few brackets like L brackets to get accessories on it. And I also bought this little adhesive cold shoe thing from B&H. And it's, you can see it's not the sturdiest thing in the world, but it's not so flimsy that stuff pulls off it. So it actually does work. So that was my first camera, and I've used this camera extensively. Before we get to my current beast, the XA40, the other thing I bought is a pocket gimbal. This is oh my goodness, I'm getting all my camera gear mixed up today. This is the Palm 2 from Fimi. So the Fimi Palm 2 is like kind of, without being disrespectful to Fimi, and I'm not sure they even deserve respect because their customer service kind of sucks. This is definitely like a poor man's DJI. If you have enough money to buy the DJI Pocket or Pocket 2, Osmo Pocket or Osmo Pocket 2, I'd recommend doing so. This does have some advantages over the Pocket 2. I bought it because it was cheaper and because I'm not making money really out of this video project right now. I'm trying to spend my money. I kind of spreading it out and not like buying the most expensive thing in either category. So that's that. And then we have the beast. This I bought up recently. I decided it was time after 2.5, 3 years of starting to take this really seriously to invest in a proper camcorder. And this is the Canon XA40 professional camcorder. It's absolutely insanely good. There is a Canon XA50 which has a 1-inch sensor versus the 1/2.3. And for those who don't know cameras, that basically means a low light performance. The bigger the sensor, the better it'll hold up in low light because there's just more sensor space to write photons onto. Now the difference between a consumer grade camcorder like this and a pro camcorder like this is, firstly, you can see it's quite a bit bigger, but more importantly, you get a bunch of pro options. And one of the key ones really is you get pro audio inputs, the XLR inputs. I need to find a shorter wire, it's a bit untidy, and there's just a ton of other features. It's really a big step up, and it's nowhere near as complicated as it looks. Like sometimes I have forgot to turn on a button here, I forgot to set this to on and didn't, but you've always got the internal microphone. So it's definitely a little bit more of a learning curve, but personally, I think this has been an incredible purchase. And when you kind of break it down, you actually realize that it's like good value, even though to me it seemed like a big spend. It's probably the most expensive thing I've ever bought. Now, I want to just say one more thing, that one of the disadvantages of a thing like this is, and this is not a joke, you straight up look like a TV crew. And why that's a problem is that, well, there's two reasons. Firstly, if it bothers you when people stop and stare at you while making video, these things, for whatever reason, pro camcorders, because everyone assumes you're like a news crew, you get so much attention when you're recording with it. The second problem is security. So technically the law is that you shouldn't record in private places without the explicit consent of the person. Most YouTubers probably live by the principle it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. But if you're trying to be inconspicuous about recording, this is not the camera to have. And that's why I'm still making a lot of use out of this guy, because this is a really small pocket thing. People don't even know really what pocket gimbals are, because they're definitely not phones, and people are like, oh, what's that crazy thing? But it's definitely less of a sort of attention grabber than something like this. It's also, to state the obvious, a lot more compact. So I think there's a place to have both like a big chunky pro camcorder for serious work. And if you're trying to do more, especially, by the way, this is a gimbal. So this is a really easy way to get stabilized footage. So you can definitely mix and match cameras and use a few cameras in the thing. Regarding having, now that I technically own two camcorders, or I do own two camcorders, it's still really useful because A, you can do stuff like multicam setups, or B, I've done a few videos on like menu functions on the Canon XA40, and now I have available the smaller camcorder, the Vixia, to shoot the bigger camcorder. So that's my current setup, 3 different cameras. I'm using, just to recap, started out with this little consumer camera from Canon, then picked up this pocket gimbal from Fimi, and still really, really love that. It's a great little tool, but it's not as good in my opinion as a DJI. And finally, after like doing this for 3 years, I don't monetize this YouTube channel, but I do some professional video work now in terms of selling stock, and I also do some work for my job, like interview the person who I work for and like that kind of stuff. So now that I'm sort of kind of a, I guess, semi-pro in some respects, I've found that having a real solid professional camcorder, that's now my go-to. And you know, these just kind of fill in the gaps if you want to be somewhere discreet. And then this one just serves as kind of a handy backup camera or filming the main camera. So that's my current setup, 3 different cameras, 3 very different cameras, but they've been a great sort of team together to date for my video work.